So let's finish up these last two pages of the notes with inequalities so that you can combine all these ideas, because after all of this is when we're going to get into the Algebra 2, where we take all of these ideas and we put them in to what we know as absolute values. So that's going to be what we do next. So let's finish these out. Okay, so we're just going to solve this like an equation. We do have what we're doing over here to the side, like we had on our other pages. So the directions are to solve and then graph it. So here's the original inequality. So you can tell that we moved the 9x over to the other side by subtracting it. Okay, so we subtracted it. 4 minus 9x is negative 5x. So we subtracted 9x from each side. Then this is just a two-step inequality, so we are going to take 5 away. Just be careful. Negative 10 minus 5 is negative 15. So we subtract 5 from each side. And then the last thing we're going to do is we're going to divide each side by that negative 5, because that's the coefficient. But remember, when you divide by a negative, or when you see this negative on both sides, that's why that symbol flipped from greater than to less than. So we divide both sides by negative 5, cancels out here. Negative divided by a negative is a positive 3. Okay? And it says, and blank the inequality. The formal word would be like reverse it. Okay, I think of it as flipping. We flip the inequality. Okay, so it's x is less than 3 instead of that greater than symbol that we had at the beginning. So now, I don't have the rules over here, but you have them on your page somewhere. So since there's no equal to, that means our circle, our dot is open at a 3. Because it can't equal 3. All points mean it equals that number. So it can't equal 3, that's why it's open, but it is less than. So all of these x values are smaller than the number 3, which means it's 2 or 1 or 0 and on and on. So it's to the left, okay? So the solutions are real numbers. I'm going to use a different color. Less than 3. Since our symbol flipped and we solved and got the number 3, okay? So be careful. In an inequality, the entire piece is the answer. You can't just say 3, okay? Left or right, equal to or not equal to, all of that matters. So you have to keep the whole piece in there, okay? All right, so why don't you solve the next 2 and try them, and I'll also do them, and then we can just compare. You can compare as I go through them so that you can see if you're on the right track or not. All right. Hi. All right. All right, so let's see. Alright, so I just moved the 4x over here. That way the x is first, so I can just follow the arrows and that kinds of stuff. So that gave me a negative 3x, added 2 over, divided by that negative 3. The negative made the symbol flip. So now it's actually equal to 2. So I fill in that circle, and it's greater than, so I go to the right. Okay? All right, now this one. One right here. Alright, so in this case, the symbol also flipped because the coefficient was negative. I had a negative on both sides, so it flips it. So, not equal to and left this time. Okay, so here's this answer. And here is this answer. Alright, and I guess that's good for those. Definitely if you have questions, remember just to write them down, jot them down, and we'll talk about them when we come into class. So let's keep going for the rest of the page. Alright, so this is a great practice of a compound inequality, which we're going to practice more in the next lesson as well. So there's 3 parts to a compound, well, to this compound inequality. Remember, it's a sandwich, so you've got the ends and you've got the middle, okay? So whenever you solve a sandwich or an and inequality, you actually have 3 parts that you have to apply instead of just the left and the right, okay? So you can kind of think of it like this, that there are kind of dotted lines down each inequality, so whatever you do here, you have to do on both sides. So you've got 3 parts that you have to apply, okay? So, here's the original inequality, okay? The first thing we want to do, and they did it off to the side, I a lot of times do it underneath, is it says we add 2 to each expression because we still are solving for x. Okay? So you want to get this x that's in the center all by itself. So how do you get rid of this 2, but you add 2 to it and it'll cancel out. So they added 2 here, but if you add 2 in the middle, like you could say plus 2 right there, you also have to add 2 on both sides, the right side and the left side. So plus 2 and plus 2. And they just wrote it out horizontally instead. I actually don't like that as much. I would rather do something like this, like pretend that these aren't here. So it just looks like -7 is less than 5x minus 2, which is less than or equal to 8. And so again, kind of like what I wrote right there, I would just say plus 2 underneath them instead, okay? Because for me, it's just easier to see that way. Because then I can see that this cancels out. And then I can combine those 2 to get my new numbers. So in the middle, since that went away, I have 5x left. And then on the left, -7 plus 2 is a -5. 5x is what's left in the middle, and then 8 plus 2 is 10. Okay? So now I still want to get this x by itself. So how do I get rid of the 5? But I divide it out. So I divide not only the middle, because that will get rid of the 5, but the right and the left. Okay, so just instead of doing it only to one other side, now you're doing it to both other sides. So then you actually can divide. -5 divided by 5 is a -1. X is finally by itself. And then 10 divided by 5 is 2. So this is our sandwich. The x is in the middle of the sandwich. These 2 numbers are the ends of the sandwich. So the solutions are real numbers. Again, I like to think of it as between, but we'll fill this out. The solutions are real numbers greater than -1, because that's the lower end, and less than or equal to 2. Okay, and again, I think of it as x is between -1 and 2. Okay, it's between it. So -1 down here, it's an open circle. Here, let me do that. Yeah, okay. -1 down here, it's an open circle because there's no equals. +2 up here, it's a closed circle because it is equal to 2. And then x is between them. So this is x right here. Okay? So that's how we always graph these and problems, these sandwich problems. Okay? And I think that's all. So we will just practice a couple more on that last page, and then you will be done with your inequalities. Okay?